Hey guys, it's Kaylor and welcome to the YouTube channel. A lot of you guys have been asking me to do this style of video for a while, so I thought I'd give it a shot and kind of slow down the speed art and talk to you guys and just kind of show my creative process a little bit. So we're going to start off by creating a user profile today, and we're going to be doing this for the iPhone. So I'm going to start off by grabbing some resources from the Apple iOS kit that XD provides for us. So let's go ahead and open that up. And I'm going to grab the status bar and this switch UI so I don't have to create this myself. So I'm going to ungroup this, grab that, and grab the status bar. Now we can close this, and I'm going to launch a blank iPhone template. And if I select the top and paste, that should paste it in. There we go. So we're going to want this to be the user profile and also allow the user to edit their settings live without having to click like an edit settings button. So we're just going to have all the information displayed for the user. So I'm going to put this on my pasteboard since we don't need it exactly right now. So the first thing we would need is a profile image of some sort. So I'm going to use a circle for this, and let's just drag one out. Let's go with 105 by 105, and we'll center that up and drag that down to about 70 on the page for now. Okay. Also, we're going to need a back button. So I'm going to use an icon pack for this, probably going to use linear icons. I'm going to go look for one, and then I'll be right back. So I am going to use two icons from the linear icon pack. Linearicons.com, I believe, is their website. If you guys haven't checked out my description before, I always have my resources and my plugins linked in the bottom of the description. So this will be linked there if you guys want to go download the free pack. I try to use everything free so anybody can use what I use in my videos. So we're going to be using either this circled arrow or this bigger arrow, and for now I'm going to put them over here to this side if I can grab both of them. And we're going to try out this one without the circle first. So we're going to need this to be a little bit larger. Let's see, 18 by 13. So let's go around 20, probably should be good. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to set up some guides. So I'm going to drag out some rectangles. I like to do this just to keep things evenly proportioned on both sides. So let's make this around 15. I'm also going to change this to a really bright color so we can tell it's a guide. And drag the opacity down a bit. I'll drag this to the side. There we go. So now we have this to kind of line up our elements with. So I'm going to drag this arrow over and position it about there. So basically I'm just going to wireframe, actually let's drag that down. I'm going to wireframe out most of the design, and then we'll start putting in images and actually creating the elements. So put that a bit further down. I'm going to launch this. Yeah, it looks good. A lot of this will be moved around anyway. So, all right, so the first thing we need is our email box. We're not going to have a name. We're just going to have an email and a password, and I think maybe a bio. So I'm going to drag out a rectangle about there. For the width, let's do 300, and the height, I'm going to do 45. Yeah. I like to add rounded corners to my design, so let's try 15 first. That is way too much. 5. Yeah, that looks good. So this is going to be where our email is going to be displayed, so we're going to need the name of this. So I'm just type email. What in the world? Email. And let's just stick with Helvetica for now, and let's drop this down to a smaller size, 14, and then put it right there. I'm actually going to take this in about 5 pixels, and then I'm going to apply, yeah, about medium. Let's actually drop this down a bit more. We don't want it so big that it's distracting, but we want the user to be able to see what field this is. I'm going to try that for now. I'm going to duplicate this and then see how it looks with 2 elements. And this one's going to be the password. Normally, I would use no field title, and I would just have the value or the I would use the placeholder text as the email name, so the user knows that's the email box. But since this is going to be filled because the user's already signed up, we're going to need a title above our input. So for now, that's working. We're also going to need a bio. So I'm gonna delete this, and then I'm going to use a repeat grid on this. Actually, let's add some text in here first. So our email is going to be kaler@youtube.com, just some random junk email. And let's drop the size down to 16. Should I center this? I feel like if we center it, it would look better. I'm going to try centering it for now. And then I also want to change the color on this to a lighter black. I usually use 2C29. Yeah, it looks good. And so we can go ahead and shift click on all this, and I'm going to repeat the grid. Drag this out. We need 3 of them, and let's put 20 spacing is good. And let's change this one to password. And so for a password, we're going to need bullets. For now, I'm just going to use this symbol. We're going to replace this in a minute. Also, I need to change my text to centered so we get that centered effect. And for our bio, I'm just going to put bio junk for now. I'll use lorem ipsum on that in a second. And we also need to change this to bio. So now we can ungroup grid and drag this box down to 120. And why did it do that? We need to ungroup this. Yes, there we go. So this needs to be 90. Perfect. And so our bio text will go in there, and I'm actually going to drop the size of the bio text to 14. Center that. Let's also drop the rest of these down to 14 as well. And we're going to delete this one completely. That's looking good. Alright, so we have just a little bit more to wireframe out, and then I think we can start with the design itself. I must have deleted my arrow. Oh, turned off the opacity. So let's do, we want the user to be able to get email updates if they choose, and that's what this UI switch is for. So I'm going to drag this down, line that up with those, and then we're going to say email updates. I'm also going to change this to 2C29. I use this black all the time. I love this black because it's not perfect black, so it looks really good in my opinion. 16 font. And this is going to need about, I would say 20, move this over, about 20.5 is good, and then we'll group these together. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to align them perfectly centered, and then I'm going to group them. Then we're going to center them up on our canvas. Okay. That looks good. So let's do a little bio text on the email update section. So telling the user what the email update is going to consist of. So I'm just going to do some random text. We're going to replace this in a second. And let's do a size 10 font. I want the opacity to be at 90. And we'll drag this centered right below this. Give it some room. Let's make this a bit longer. See what it looks like. It needs to be more further down. Okay. I'm actually going to make this UI switch just a little bit smaller. I feel like it's a little bit dominating. Let's fix the spacing issue. There we go. We can group these back together and center it up about there, and then we can put this about there. Perfect. So now we need a save button to save all of our users' profile information. So I'm going to drag a rectangle out, and let's round the corners to 5 and center it up. So that looks good. I'm going to delete this. Alright, so that's my wireframe pretty much done. I usually adjust a lot after the wireframe when I'm actually designing because things often don't look as good after they're wireframed. So for now, this is a good solid foundation, but this is probably not going to stick. So let's get into designing it now and adding some images and adding some color to this. Alright, so let's start out by adding our profile icon image. So I have just a random image of a guy. Drag that in. That's pretty good crop, so I think I'll just leave that. I'm also going to see if I want to remove this border or not. Let's make it our 2C29 color. For now, I'm going to leave that. Also, I think I want to have some kind of color on the icon. So like this top section is going to be divided somehow. So let's drag out a rectangle and then put it to the back. I'm going to remove the border and let's pick a color and see if this looks good. I use blue a lot in designs like this because I mean a lot of people do, because I think they just look good in UI and applications. You can try to use red, but I just really don't like using red. Let's go for like a medium blue, like a not too bright but not dark. Something around there. So I'm going to create a swatch so we can easily grab this. Let's move the border on that. Yeah, and let's change the border to white now and see how that looks. Yeah, that's a lot better. Yeah, even 2 works. Should add some shadow to that maybe. Let's do 3. Let's bump up the blur to about 15. Try 10. Looks good. And I think I'm going to center this inside of that. And then I'm actually going to drag this up to about there. So I want probably a little bit more user information. So I think we're going to do like a slideshow thing. So we're going to have the 2 dots showing that the user can swipe over to get to some more information besides just the user icon. And I think that's where our username is going to go. So let's put this here. Drag out a circle. I'm going to copy that. These are probably way too big, so let's scale these down a bit. I really love this gray that Adobe XD picked. I know they picked that for a reason because it's a really good gray. I rarely have to change this color, so shouts out to Adobe XD and the Adobe team. Let's do just the standard no fill, and then this should be the same color as the border when it's selected. Yeah, except let's make these white, and then we're going to drop the opacity down. Have to do that on the fill of that one. Let's just group them. Actually, let's scale them down because they're still a bit too large, and they need just a bit more spacing. Yeah, that's perfect. Probably have to center these back up. And feel like I want the spacing on this a little bit closer to this bottom line. Yeah, that adds a little bit more. So let's try dropping the opacity to about 40. Too low. 60. Still too low. The white was looking really nice. We might just keep the we might just keep the white. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the 100% white. That's looking good. So I'm gonna hide the guides for a second. Don't really need them right now. Actually, I'm gonna group these together and put them in a folder called guides. and I'm going to hide them. So we got this really clean header. I feel like I should have went with a square on these boxes. So I'm going to try this. I don't know, that may be too much. Let's add the border to them, and then we'll adjust this. So for the border, I'm going to try a black, but I feel like blue is going to look better. Yeah, let's try the blue. Oh, that's much better. And then we might also go with a blue text on this as well. No, I don't like that. Let's go back to that black. I'm actually going to make that a swatch so I don't have to keep entering that in. 2C, 2C, 29, there we go. Then as far as the email goes, I don't like this. I'm going to drag this off to the side to the pasteboard for now. So we know this is the email. We got to think of the user. So we know this is the email, but we need something to indicate that when the box is empty. So I kind of want to have something there at all times, but I don't know where to put it. I can do the typical icon in the corner where we have an email icon, but I feel like I do that all the time. Let's do something weird. Let's push this to the side and give it about 15 spacing. And then let's drag the email back over. What size is this? This is 12 and this is 14. So the 12 would still look good. We'll center that up and give that 15 spacing. It's not bad. Maybe it's a little too wide on this box. So let's scale this in a bit. Maybe 270. And then we'll try the spacing again. Yeah, I feel like that looks a little bit better, but let's try 280. 270 is a little too narrow. Yeah, I'm actually kind of liking that. So we're going to keep this. Let's center everything up, and then we need to fix some spacing issues. So this needs to be, it's not giving me the smart guide, so we're going to drag out a rectangle. Let's just do 20 by 20 square and remove the border, change this to a bright red. And put that over there. I really hope they add guides to this program soon. I love guides in Photoshop, and it's one of the things that I really miss when I came to this program. This program still has advantages, but I really need that. That's good. So we're just going to keep this for now because I'm sure we're going to need it for later. Yeah, that looks a lot better than this in my opinion, so I think I'm going to keep going with that. So I'm going to just delete this, and I'm going to group this together, and I'm going to copy it. And let's do, as far as spacing goes, let's drag our rectangle back in, or our square. Let's do 20 pretty much all over in this design. I think that would look good. Yeah. Let's make sure this is centered. And so this would need to be password, and we'll go ahead and create our dots for our password now, since we don't want this visible. 10 by 10 looks good. Let's remove the border and then apply our black fill. Maybe 8 by 8. 10 by 10, maybe a little too big. I believe this is still in a group, so I'm going to remove the group for now. And let's line this circle up and delete our text. So it doesn't really matter how many of these dots we have. It really just depends on the user's password. I'm going to put 2 in between them for spacing. Let's grab a few so we don't have to keep copying. Alright, so I'm going to grab all of these now. Make sure they're centered and evenly spaced. So that looks good. I'm actually going to make this a bit longer because it's 2017. Passwords are usually pretty long. A lot of people require a lot of numbers and at least 8 characters. So let's make this pretty long. So it still fits in the box. It doesn't come near the password. So that's good. We could also have, if the user had a super long password where it can scroll in the box. That'll work. I kind of feel like the spacing on the sides is a little much, so let's try reducing this. So I'm going to ungroup this for now. I think the 15 would look better. So I'm going to change my square to a rectangle and drag that in. Center that up. Yeah, that looks a lot better. There's too much space here. That's really bothering me. So I'm going to grab all these circles and add them to a group and space this out as well. And this one should line up with that email. Yes. Is that not 15? It's not. Okay. Why is this one 17 and this one's... Oh, they're not lined up perfectly. Okay. That makes perfect sense. So I'm going to group this, and then I'm going to group this one, and then we're going to center those. There we go. Somehow it got off centered and centered up to our canvas. Perfect. We might need to add a title at the top for profile settings. So I'm going to drag some space down. About 60. Yeah. And let's do a nice gray text, maybe. Profile settings. And then let's change this from regular to light. And then let's try out a 16 size font. And I'm going to make this, no, let's just leave it 20. That may be too much. But we'll add 20 spacing in between the actual letter top itself. There we go. And then we can drag these back up. And we need to add 15 spacing to this, probably. So there. Let's see how this looks. Whoops. So I'm going to run this. It's looking pretty good. Maybe a little more white space in between profile settings. So I'm going to undo this. And I'm just going to kind of do it visually. So let's drag that there. And then maybe these boxes up. Perfect. So now we just need to apply the same style we kind of did to this. So the width of this is 280. And then let's grab our blue border color. Center that one up. Drag out bio. Excuse me, drag out bio. And space that perfectly. Okay, this is the one that's going to be tricky. I'm going to ungroup this, duplicate it, then I'm going to group this one back. And then I'm going to put this one behind the word bio, and we're going to center the word bio in this and give it 15 spacing like the others. And then we're going to delete this one. Yeah, that looks good. And so the bio will wrap like somewhere right here. So this will all be white space. So we're going to delete this text, and I'm going to apply the text in this in a bit. All right, so one thing I just noticed is we need to change this icon to white if we're going to use this blue and white theme. So let's change that. Whoops. I'm really misclicking a lot today. I don't really know why. Must be because it's a little bit later in the day. I also want to move this in a bit. So I'm going to duplicate this spacer. And I'm going to make it 20 wide. Because I think we have this 15 from the side. I think that's what our guide was. And that's not looking too good. So let's drag this out to 20. I'm just going to delete that. Yeah, that looks a lot better. I'm also maybe gonna move it up. These linear icons are so hard to click on because they're lines. So yeah, so it's touching the top of the image. I'm gonna run this. Yeah, that feels a little bit more natural. Okay, so let's do something with our email updates section down here. So we're gonna want this switched on. So I'm gonna ungroup this, and I'm gonna ungroup the switch UI and drag this over. How did they have that? Okay, so they have the line shown, so about there. All right, and then we're gonna change the fill color of this to our blue color we've been using. So the user knows that the email updates are turned on. I've also typed out just some junk text for our bio and for our email updates. So I'm going to grab that on my other screen. Alright, so let's paste this in. It's a bit long, so let's break this up into 2 lines. By turning email updates on, you will only receive our weekly update emails. I feel like if we go smaller with this text, it won't be very readable, but I almost feel like we need to do that. So I'm going to try 8 and then drag it up. So let's run that and see how that feels. Yeah, it's way too small. I even have to squint to read that. So let's go back to 10. I don't think anything below 10 would be readable for every single user. So we're just going to have to do that. And then let's drag it down a bit, and maybe that'll help. I'm going to run this again. That's a little better. We still need to do something with the email updates and the switch UI. It looks out of place. Maybe more spacing. If we drag it apart, whoops, let's group this back. I'm probably going to do that again. If we drag it way over here and then have this lined up so it's like the rest of the stuff, we might be able to get away with putting this like this. Well, that actually looks pretty good. Yeah, I kind of like that. I might change where the text breaks to a new line, but as of now, I really like that. So let's fix this a bit. So I think we have 20 spacing in between this. So let's change this to 20 by 20. And let's put that right on the bio. And I'm going to duplicate this twice. I'm going to grab this and make sure that's at 40. Because we don't want everything to be even spaced, because then it will look a little off. That's not enough. So maybe 20 would be good. We might have to even space it. Yeah, because there's enough white space here to kind of make up for the lack there. So yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, so I'm going to delete the line change there for now. And let's drag this underneath our email updates. And we want it to probably break. I guess we'll just do it right here. Yeah, I think that looks actually really good. Alright, so now let's style our save button. So I'm going to do this as a full colored button. So let's do the blue color. Remove our border. And it needs to be a little smaller. I think it's a little too big. Maybe a bit wider. And then let's grab our spacer. Just below our text, I'm going to do 40 on this one because I know I like to have spacing on my buttons below all my content. Let's make sure that's centered. Drag these out of the way. Yeah, that looks really good. Alright, so we need some text on this. Let's do maybe just save would look good. Nice big save. We'll add some white to that, and let's try 16 size font. That looks good. Let's try all cap. Yeah, that doesn't look good. So I'm going to center that inside this button, and I'm going to group that. So now we have our save button, we've got our email update styles, and we need to add some temporary text into our bio. So I have some junk text that I typed that out, and let's add a kind of a rectangle to space this. So this is only temporary. And then on our text tool, I want it to kind of line up with this. And then paste that in there. Obviously that is way too big. This, let's try 10 on this. See how that works. Let's remove a bit of spacing. And we have 15 spacing. Let's delete this temporary rectangle. And then the first line should be centered like that with the bio. So that doesn't look too bad. Maybe if we align right, it'll look even better, and then drag out the spacing a little bit more. No. Let's run this. Yeah, there's a lot of white space in the bio. So we could have it to where the line starts right here, and then the next line starts right here. I feel like that would look weird though. Maybe we just need to increase the text size and give it just a little bit more spacing. I don't want to go too far over because then we're getting close to this password. I think that'll work. Alright, so this page is almost done of our user profile. So one more thing I need to do is, I think this needs to be a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to scale this up. I think it's just a little too small. Actually, I need to zoom in, it's snapping too much. Fix the spacing and make sure it lines up with the email updates. Yeah, it's a lot better. It was a little too small. You couldn't see like the blue enough, I don't think. So that looks better. All right, so since this is almost done, I'm just going to drag these to the left since we're going to be creating another screen. So I'm going to call this one profile settings _1. Let's drag these over. Oh, let's just put them right there. All right, so I think that's all we need for the main screen. So I'm going to duplicate this, Command D, and we need to design the second tab. So let's change this one to a fill and change this one to a border. So we're going to delete this. Actually, I'm going to leave it there for just a second. Yeah, let's just go ahead and delete it. How tall is it? 105. So let's drag out a rectangle that matches this for a placeholder. Okay. All right, so we're going to want the terms and the privacy to be displayed to the user on this second tab. So this tab's not as important. So unless the user slides over to it, there's no real like huge button like the save button to get to this. So we don't want the like huge important things to be in this menu. So I'm just going to do things like the privacy, terms, and maybe a sign out button. So let's add privacy. And then I'm going to do this straight line and then terms. Let's make these 16 and change the color to white. Actually, let's make it 12. It's a little too big. And then I'm going to line that up with the top of where our icon used to be. That's why the square is here. See how that looks. Okay, so since these words are not exactly the same length, this bar is not centered. So I'm actually going to create this bar separately and make it, I think we did 12. Yes. And I'm going to center this up. And make sure it lines to the top of that. And then we're going to put privacy on the left side. And then we'll space it about 5. And then I'm going to copy this Space it out evenly and put terms, just so it looks a little bit better. And I'm going to drag this over. There we go. And let's do a sign out button. So I'm going to grab the save button and duplicate that. I'm going to remove the group, add a white border, and we can just go ahead and remove the fill since we can't see it anyway. And I'm going to scale it down. For the text, I'm going to do sign out in all caps. And I'm going to change the font weight to light. And let's drop that down to 12. Maybe 10. Perfect. On this border, I'm going to leave it at 1, but we're going to scale this way down. And then center these two up together. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And let's put about 10 spacing in between that. Maybe a little more. 15 to keep it consistent. Yeah, that looks good. Alright, so let's change the name on this to 2. And then I'm going to launch this. Let's actually make the text on this a bit bigger. That's probably going to mess up the spacing, but we can easily fix that. Is this centered? It's still centered, okay. Yeah, and since the icon is kind of centered right here, I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to take it to the back, and let's put it to the side. And we're going to take all of these elements and we're going to center them up with the icon of our guy here. I think that would look a little better than having a lot of like white space below the sign out button. See how that looks? Yeah, that looks a lot better. So this is the information that the user may need, but they don't necessarily need it all the time. Because who really signs out of accounts on the apps like all the time? Let's try bolding these. Fix the spacing. Yeah, it looks a little better. That way we have some bold and we have some non-bold. I think I'm going to keep this as regular. Alright, so the only other thing that we might want to add is if we're doing this for like a client, we can do what if something has been edited and it's not saved, so we can have some kind of notification for that. So I'm going to duplicate the first artboard we made, and I'm going to call this settings_3. If I was going to make a huge app, I'd probably want to do like a better naming system, but for now we're just going to do that. Let's say we've edited our password and we want, so let's take off some of the characters just to kind of symbolize that. So we want this to be displayed visually that we've changed our password to a new shorter passcode. So let's do a green color, I think would look good. Maybe a darker green. Let's see. We could do red, that would stand out more. But it also kind of shows like the sign of an error. Let's just try gray. Like the default standard Adobe XD gray. And see how that looks. It needs to stand out, but it doesn't need to show that we have an error. And I think that does a nice job of standing out. I'm gonna live preview this and kind of, yeah. We could add some more border. Maybe. Might try. We have a fill, so we can add a shadow without it looking weird, probably. And then let's lower the blur to like 3, and then the opacity on this just a bit. I don't even think that's visible really. I think I want to go with red because it stands out the most. I'm going to revert back to the green really quickly. we could also change this text color to green. That might help it stand out a little bit, because that text on its own does not stand out at all. Yeah, that's a lot better. Okay, so this notifies us that we've changed our password. We might want a little text below here. I think that would be a good idea. All right, so let's add that. So let's just say like not all changes saved. And this can probably be smaller than 10, so I'm gonna try 8. And center it, put it just below our save button, probably 5 pixels. Not all changes saved. And then we can copy our green color again, and I'm gonna make a swatch for it. And I suppose we could just make a swatch by clicking the plus and using that every time, but I feel like using the eyedropper tool and just selecting that's a little bit quicker sometimes. We might actually want to go back to the red, because we are telling the user they haven't changed or they haven't saved their information. I'm gonna go back to the red. I think it would look better because we haven't saved our information yet. So let's copy that and see how that looks. No, I don't like it. We're going with the green. I'm sticking with it. We're going with green. Not all changes saved. I'm gonna make this bold. It's a little unnoticeable. All right, let's see if that is too small. We might need to change the text size. Now it's clearly noticeable because you're using white space as the user. Not all changes saved. This is green, so that's notifying you. And I think that looks pretty good. All right, so the last thing I like to do in Adobe XD, once I'm done, if I can, is to add a little motion to kind of get a feel for the prototype. So let's go to the prototype tab. And the first thing we need to do is have our little circle linked to this page. And I'm going to do a slide right on that one. Let's see how that looks. Actually, let's do a slide left. And then we also need this little one to link to our home page and slide right. Let's test that out. So there we go. Now the user would be swiping with their finger to just change this top section, but that kind of mimics it well. Next thing we need to do is to be able to change our password on both of these windows. Actually, let's just do it on this window since we don't have this right here over here. So I'm going to grab the password box and drag that there. And I think we did a push left on this one. Yes. And then when we click save, we want that to go back to here, and we want to push right on that. Or slide right, sorry. So here we can change this menu. That looks good. We can edit our password, and we can save our password. Alright guys, that's going to do it for the design. If you made it through this entire video, I want to thank you guys for watching me for almost an hour. You guys are amazing. Let me know in the comments down below if you like this style of video or the speed arts better. I'm just interested in knowing what you guys think. Also, don't forget to give this video a like if you enjoyed it. And as always, have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hey guys, it's Kaler. Thanks for watching the video. Click here to subscribe to my channel for new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. If you want to see this channel grow even more, don't forget to share this video. You can click the share button down below. Over here is YouTube's recommendation just for you, so go check out that video and let me know what you think in the comments. Up here is my newest video, and if you haven't seen it already, go give it a thumbs up. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.